Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
A reminder that our title sponsor, Able Auctions. Meanwhile, it is a Friday, and all of our guests today, including Thomas Drance, standing by, brought to you by Langley Chrysler. Don't miss the game because your car needs servicing. Langley Chrysler will pick up service and drop off your car so you don't have to miss the action. And boy, the action is going to be hot and heavy Saturday. Valet service only at langleychrysler.com. Let's get to the poll question. Rick, it has to do with a certain team from the center of the universe.
Center of the universe. Ryan, poster up, question, poll question. What do you want to see happen to the Leafs on Saturday? 76% say they want to see them lose. 23% say they want to see them win, Donnie. Remember, Don, the Oilers, before they won their Stanley Cups, what did they have to do? They had to lose. They remember the series against the Kings? They blew the 5-0 lead, and they were called weak-kneed. What Terry Jones called them, bad name. Anyways.
Tampa Bay did the same thing.
That's right.
The loss to Columbus.
Columbus, 4 straight. And the Leafs are on the verge of having to lose first before they break open and smash through.
I got news for you, Rick. They've been losing since 2004. It was the last time they won a playoff series.
I get it.
Sam and Richmond, Delaney's OK Tire in Langley inbox. I don't understand how anyone in BC can cheer for the Oilers and Leafs. Donnie, turn in your BC card.
That
hurts. That hurts. I just like to I like to be emotionally invested in the sporting events I'm watching, whether that's hate or love. I like that. That's what the Leafs bring out in me, not the love part. And watching Connor McDavid, how can you not love that? Thomas Drance joins us now from The Athletic. Thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
Doing well, gentlemen. The Vancouver-Toronto animosity runs deep, as does Canucks fans telling locals that they've lost their BC card because they don't hate the Leafs outright. Speaking, of course, I grew up here. I watched Sports Desk. And I remember I went to the game. Do you remember the Canucks had that comeback win on a Saturday night in Toronto? I lived in Toronto at the time. Big Canucks fan. I'm there, in my jersey before I was a professional media member. And I remember the Leafs go up 4-0 in the first period. And the Canucks start storming back. And I have this vivid memory of a Leafs fan sort of turning to me when the score was 3-0. And they were like, "You'll never win a cup with Luongo." And I looked at them and I said, "You'll never win this game with Toskala." And you can imagine how much he heard from me as the Canucks stormed back in that third period. A good fan memory for me.
Hey, excellent work by yourself and Rick, and the article's in The Athletic. Let's focus on a lot of things going on in that article, but let's focus on Brock Boeser, his future in Vancouver, Thomas.
The Boeser situation is very interesting. We've gone through sort of the mechanics, and a lot of this is mechanics. The structure of his deal, the $7.5 million qualifying offer, the team's option to take him to club-elected arbitration. It's all rather complicated. It's all rather inside hockey, Donnie. And yet the sense we got in working the phones yesterday was that, in fact, it feels like, first of all, negotiations are likely to kick into a higher gear next week.
Yep.
It does feel like it's a priority to get it done. There's a lot of options on the table, although I think something in the 2 or 3 year range likely is going to be the sweet spot here. And certainly the negotiations, I believe, are going to start on a sense of shared common ground. I don't think either side wants to have this linger into July where either side is facing really tough decisions. Do we file for arbitration or not? Do we qualify him or not? Look, and I don't think there's a ton of suspense here. I suspect that the team will not, their preference will not be to file for arbitration. Their preference will not be to leave Brock non-tendered. I don't think there's a ton of suspense on either of those polls, but you know that things can change as you get deeper into negotiations and deadlines approach. I think there's a shared goal of finding a compromise solution well before that, and negotiations will begin next week. That's what we're hearing anyway.
Yeah, okay, Thomas, let's go over to the head coach. 1 minute we hear he's coming back. Then we hear he's not coming back. And then we hear there's animosity now. Where are we with Bruce Boudreau?
In wait-and-see mode, Rick. I really think we're in wait-and-see mode. nebulously defined issues that need to be worked on. There's a scheduled meeting next week. Signs of optimism from both sides. Certainly, the relationship is still functional enough that Boudreau played a big role in the meeting that the club had with Andrei Kuzmenko. Very good sign. We've known that for a little bit, but it is a good sign, particularly as additional reports come out about things going sideways, just in terms of the communication between both sides. I still think there's an earnest desire to continue this relationship in some form, but I don't think it's simple. And I don't think that the issues, even though they're nebulously defined, I know there's a lot of speculation about what they might be, whether it's coaching autonomy or what have you. I'm not going to get into that because I couldn't get any side to speak to it when I was working the phones yesterday, Rick. I don't know about you, but I literally, no one wants to talk about it. I don't even know if everyone knows exactly what the substance of that issue, of that meeting is going to look like in terms of those issues in scare quotes. But, I don't think they're immaterial. I don't think that's just sort of a rote dot some I's, cross some T's. I'm sure there's an honest heart-to-heart that has to happen. Mm-hmm. I still suspect that it's more likely than not that we see Boudreau return, but until it's done, we have to ask the question, if this were as simple as everyone wants to continue this relationship, why isn't it done yet?
Yeah, no kidding. That's the big question. The other one is, Thomas, 5 people let go in the club's medical and training staff. Scouts let go this week. Obviously, there's an internal review of the whole organization, top to bottom. Is this where we see the changes stop, or is there going to be some more coming up in your eyes?
It's tough to see. First of all, there's going to be more changes, but whether that's additional dismissals or additions, I find that harder to speak to. I think that on the scouting side of the operation anyway, I do think we're going to see an addition, at least one, in the pro scouting ranks. I won't be surprised to see them add additional R&D analytics type employees over the course of the summer. I think you're going to see a ton of additions, a wash of additions in the amateur scouting department. And I wouldn't be shocked if we see further changes in the amateur scouting department either. I was sort of talking over, not with a Canucks source, but with a league source, like a veteran scout, and sort of noting that they'd only dismissed 5 scouts prior to amateur meetings. And one thing they noted to me is teams typically are very careful in advance of amateur meetings in their own draft process to make sure that they have enough bodies, right, to actually have the coverage and the games watched. And enough people to participate in a healthy process. I do think that there could be additional changes on the amateur scouting side in the weeks and months to come. As for sort of the more granular day-to-day operational folks, I don't have a good sense of it at the moment. I'd be reluctant to handicap it. I certainly don't want anyone's collars to be tight unnecessarily around Rogers Arena. But one thing I will say, Rick, is from the perspective of a hockey team, right? Yeah. The changes that were made this week in terms of the club's human performance department are way more significant than changes to an amateur scouting department. That's Scouts play a vital role within an NHL club. Don't get me wrong, right? They are hardworking, salt of the earth folks, contribute massive value to an NHL organization, but they're not day-to-day. They're not around the players. Often they don't have relationships with the players and the coaches and management. Medical staffers are like nitty-gritty, day-to-day executors. They are around constantly. They build deep, trusting relationships with the players. Their impact on the room is to really define and set the player experience in a lot of ways, along with equipment staffers and additional other day-to-day support staffers and members of the traveling party. These are really significant changes, and these are extremely long-tenured employees. Roger Takahashi is a local legend. You've got John Sanderson. He worked over 1,500 NHL games. And then on and on down the list. Really tough to see, but clearly the organization feels that it needs to make changes in a lot of respects.
We'll advise people to look at, take a gander at your article, you and Rick's article today in The Athletic. Thomas, busy show. We got to get going. Thanks so much for this. Have a great weekend. Great work.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'm thrilled to have been able to open for Dan Russell. Let's go.
Oh, yeah. And you're from Vancouver. You must have grown up listening to Dan.
All the time. Wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now if not for people like him and McRae and Dave Pratt and yourself, Donnie. So enjoy it. Have a good chat.
Thanks, Thomas, and thanks for making me feel old. I appreciate it. Thanks, Thomas.